Hello and thanks for joining me. Today I'm in the lovely little Gwynedd village of Criccieth at the northern end of Cardigan Bay. It's early November, beautiful sunny afternoon, and I've got the whole place to myself. Now, I was on a beer run getting ready for Christmas at the Purple Moose Brewery shop in Porthmadog, highly recommended by the way. And I thought, what better way to spend the afternoon, sunset's going to be about 4:30 in a couple of hours time, than on the beach here at Criccieth. What I thought I might do is just show you how I would approach an ordinary urban beach. It's not like the sort of places that you might have seen me recently at Llandwyn Island and those sort of places with rugged wild coastlines. This is much more tame and the sea is flat calm, and it's more like the sort of thing you might find yourself in when you're out and about with the family. And what I'm hoping to do is to show you that there are some landscape photography opportunities. Now, the views from around here are absolutely spectacular. You can see all the way down the Cardigan coastline, across to Harlech Castle, and all the way down the Llŷn Peninsula. But don't be fooled, that really doesn't make for very good landscape photography at all. What we're going to be looking at today, I think, is a little bit of detail. And then as the sun goes down, I'm going to head across to the beach on the other side of Criccieth Castle and see if I can get a nice sunset shot with the silhouette of the castle as a feature in the frame. Anyway, what I need to do now is see what I can find here down on the beach and try and get some compositions set up to show you can still capture some interesting images. And you might be asking yourself, why aren't you up at the castle taking some pictures of that? It is a really fascinating castle with a fascinating history. The problem is, if you're inside the castle, all you can see is the inside of the castle walls, so it's not ideal. Now, I may well walk up a little bit nearer because it's impressive. It's on this huge rocky outcrop, and its history sort of ties in with its geography, and maybe I'll explain a bit more about that later on. But for now, I'm going to stay down on the beach because, as I said, at the castle all you can see is the inside of it. Now, I don't know what the collective noun is for a group of turnstones. Perhaps a cobble, I don't know. But I found about 7 or 8 of them sitting on a rock, and I've wasted about 45 minutes getting a shot of that, despite the fact I'm not even remotely a wildlife photographer. What I'm going to do now is head on all the way down to the end of the beach, see if I can get an image of the castle before I have a look at one of these breakwaters, and see if I can get a classic breakwater leading into the sea sort of shot. Well, as you can probably imagine, a beautiful castle sitting on a cliff top on a fabulous piece of coastline will attract its fair share of attention from smartphone cameras. So what I've been trying to do here is to find a composition that is perhaps slightly different, and something that you really do need a proper camera to do it justice. I've hunted around the beach for quite some time to find something. Now, the problem I've got is simply standing on the beach and taking a shot of the castle on the hill is just like the sort of thing you'd expect to see in 1,000 holiday snaps. What I've done instead is I found the one boulder on the beach that's oriented just about right to try and create some balance in the image. Now, I'm not a big fan of where you have a big foreground and your main subject way off in the background as if it's an afterthought. However, there really isn't much else you can do in this particular location with this particular subject. Now, the castle from further back down the beach is more imposing and you can catch it with a long lens. But getting up close and underneath the cliff a little bit kind of makes it slightly more imposing, even though you just see a little sliver of castle. Technically, not a hugely difficult image. I'm focus stacking it with one focus point on the rock, one focus point on the flagpoles of the castle. I'm shooting at f5.6 and quite wide at 14 millimeters because I do want to create that sense of drama in the image. Now, in the absence of any more interesting sky and anything else that's going on that I can make use of, like stormy waves breaking against the bottom of the cliff, I think it's about as good as I'm going to get for this afternoon. As you'd expect with most urban beaches, it's got its fair share of plug-ugly sea defences. Not ideal for the landscape photographer, although I suppose if you live in one of these houses above them, you're pretty grateful of them. But what you do get with these sort of beaches are lots of breakwaters, and that's what often attracts a landscape photographer. Now, I've walked up and down the beach and most of them are quite intact, apart from this one that's got a couple of posts sticking out by themselves. Now, the sea is pretty calm, but despite that, I'm going to go for a 10-stop filter here because I really want to smooth it right out. Now, I could do with the sea being slightly further in, just up to this little rock that's underneath the first section that I've got in my frame. I can't really wait around too long because I want to get over to the other side of the castle to shoot back towards the sunset in about an hour or so. But I'm going to take a few shots here, shooting at about 25 millimeters, something like that. One thing I've done is to close my aperture down just a little bit. I'm shooting at f7.1, and the reason for that is I do want to make sure that the whole image is nice and sharp. Now, the castle at Criccieth has got quite an interesting history. It was started by Llywelyn the Great, one of the Welsh princes, and finished up by Llywelyn ap Gruffudd, no relation. Although maybe he was, who knows. Anyway, it was conquered by Edward I and then incorporated in his Ring of Steel when he built his own castles at places like Conwy, Beaumaris and Carnarvon. And it carried on in English hands for another 100 years or so, until early in the 15th century, in 1404, when Owain Glyndwr sacked it, and pretty much it's been derelict ever since. Now, this shot is not at all about late sunset colour. What I specifically wanted, and the reason I came here at exactly this time of year, was to get the sun just as it's obscured by the top of the castle, and by shooting with a really small aperture at f22. And don't panic, I'm not worried at all about diffraction on the lens because my main subject is purely silhouette. It's about the shape of the castle. But by having that tiny aperture, it provides the sunburst effect that I'm looking for. And what I'm going to do is blend it with an image from the foreground, this lovely piece of driftwood that just happened to be in exactly the right spot. I kid you not, there's no way I could lift that and move it into place. And also some bits of dried bladderwrack where the backlight coming through them is glowing bright red. Really interesting. By getting the camera down low, it means that the beach between me and the water is reduced, so I don't have a big boring area of midground. So I've got this imposing foreground and the spectacular rays of the setting sun as they drop behind the castle. Of course, you can shoot here in midsummer. The problem with midsummer, of course, is you certainly won't have the beach to yourself, and you'll either have to do a lot of cloning or talk very nicely to a lot of people to get them out the way. Anyway, I've got the image that I came here for. I brought the lovely Mrs. G here for lunch at Dillon's back in August, and as we were heading off, I said to her, I really must come back later in the year because when the sun goes down behind the castle, it could be quite an interesting image. Well, of course, living round here with the mountains on my doorstep, I kind of look forward to winter because that's when the mountains are at their best. But at this time of year in late autumn, when you get a lovely balmy day like this and you can spend it on the beach at a time of year when there's nobody else around, it's absolutely brilliant. I've had a fabulous afternoon. And one of the things about vlogging is you get to make memories for yourself as well. So hopefully I shall look back on this one and really enjoy it. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. And if you have, why not subscribe now and join me next time? Cheers.